All right, just got back from the movie theater where I saw the Black Panther movie. So, I don't know about you, I suspect most people have had kind of a similar evolution on this movie towards me. At first I wasn't going to see it because I've just been seeing so many of these Marvel movies lately, and superhero movie fatigue is beginning to set in. They're well done. They're well done for what they are, but each movie is essentially kind of the same. And I've noticed myself in my reviews, I'm starting to complain about how they're just another superhero movie, which isn't a problem with the movie, it's a problem with me. It's a sign that I need to kind of take a break from these movies. But, you know, this is where Marvel gets you, because you kind of have to see them because they all kind of tie together. And I'm actually not even complaining about that. I grew up as a nerd. I kind of like continuity. I like how it all kind of ties together. But like it does mean that they've got you. So like I thought to myself, I'll just wait for Avengers Age of Ultron, because that will be the big one, you know, where everyone is coming together. No, what am I saying? Infinity Wars. Age of Ultron was the last one. I thought I would wait for the next big crossover event, but you have to see all the little ones to see where they kind of tie together. And I thought, you know, if I don't see this in the theaters, I'm going to end up watching it on my computer on a small screen. Might as well just see it in the theaters. You know you're going to see it anyways, these Marvel movies. That was before all these rave reviews kind of started coming in. Now again, if you're like me and you've been reading the reviews for the past couple weeks, a couple weeks ago people started raving about this movie. I mean, I'm assuming you've maybe been reading the same reviews I have. People said like this was the next evolution in Marvel movies, like they're dropping their superhero formula and moving into more of a Shakespearean epic drama. And then, you know, this could be like the next turning point with where they're going with these movies. And well, just all sorts of really good reviews were coming in. And I thought, oh wow, well, I've got to see it now. And then, again, I'm kind of assuming maybe you've been reading the same stuff I've been reading or had a similar experience in your social media. People began popping up and saying stuff like, I saw it and it was good, but it's not that good. Like, it's not as good as everyone's saying it is. At least that's what I was kind of getting in my social media. My group of friends or some of the reviews I've been reading. But, you know, I decided to go see it anyways. So my review is, it's good, but it's not that good. It's not as good as everyone's been saying it is. I wonder somewhat if this has to do, this kind of, the way these reviews have been kind of cycling through in different phases, have to do with different expectations. So this movie is different. It's trying some different things that Marvel movies don't usually try. And I think maybe that first wave of critics, perhaps this just took them off guard. And they were like, oh wow, this movie is so different. And then like the second wave of critics were, our expectations were kind of set too high by the first wave of critics. So we were like, okay, there's some different stuff going on here, but it's not that great. But all that being said, I am going to rank this 6 out of 10 stars. So slightly better than average. Worth seeing, not a bad movie, but it's not as great as that kind of first wave of critics said. So let me kind of get into it a little bit, maybe with the positives and the negatives. I'll start with the positives, because there are some really good things about this movie. I guess maybe the biggest positive is this movie has a great villain. You know, people had been talking on the internet in the months kind of prior to this movie. They called it the Marvel villain problem, meaning that all the villains in these Marvel movies were just kind of interchangeable. They just kind of all wanted to take over the world, or they all wanted to kill everyone, and they had, you know, all had kind of the same motivation, and they were all just kind of pure evil. And they were just not interesting at all, which is a shame, especially I think if you're kind of a comic book geek. Marvel Comics has always kind of had interesting villains. Like the villains always kind of have like an angsty backstory that explains why they became villains in the Marvel Comics. They're not just kind of generic like super bad guys. But they have been generic super bad guys in the movie. And this Black Panther movie had an interesting villain. And what's more, a really talented actor, a guy called Michael B. Jordan, who I didn't really know who he was before I saw this movie. And then after I saw this movie, I looked him up on Wikipedia, and it turns out I do know him kind of. I've never seen any of the movies he was in. He's not been in a lot of movies, just a handful of them. But it turns out he did play kind of Wallace in season 1 of The Wire, which if you don't remember, Wallace was, well, I don't want to spoil it, but Wallace was one of the kids in season 1. So I'm like, okay, well, I've seen him in that, but I've never seen him in anything as an adult. He was still a child actor at that point. And this guy is good. I mean, he's really charming and interesting and smooth. I guess charismatic would be the word you'd want to use here. He is good. I really liked him. And in fact, I thought, I hate to say it, but he was, I hate to say this, but at times I did think he was much better than the actor who was playing the lead. Sorry. I thought the guy who was playing the Black Panther, what's his name? Chad Boseman, is that it? I don't remember. Like, he wasn't bad, but like he wasn't, I'm not sure he was great. But the guy who was playing the villain, that guy was just great. Now, it's almost a shame he was playing the villain. But, you know, if there are any Hollywood producers listening to me right now, take that guy and put him in the starring role in the next movie. That guy is good. Wow. And he was just such an interesting actor to watch. And there were other good actors in there as well. The Black Panther himself wasn't bad. His sister was really good. I forget the name of the actress. But the Black Panther's sister was kind of a really kind of fun, comedic role, but she just had a great smile, and they had a really good interaction between each other. Also, I hate to be the guy who's praising the only 2 white actors in the movie, but I'm going to be that guy. I love Martin Freeman. I know he's got a small role in this movie, but I love Martin Freeman. I was a big fan of the British version of The Office. I've been kind of a big fan of Martin Freeman ever since. He's doing this CIA operative named Ross, and he's just doesn't have a big part, but he's really great in it. Actually, let me jump ahead here. Andy Serkis also did a really great job. Andy Serkis is he's a stop motion guy. So you almost always see him like as a CGI character. But he was great just seeing him in the flesh. This isn't his first time in the Marvel Universe. This is the same character that they set up in Age of Ultron as a kind of arms dealer who had some vibranium from Wakanda. And I have to admit, when I saw Age of Ultron, I didn't really like that whole thing. It didn't really kind of make sense within the movie. But now that this character is kind of coming into Black Panther, which was kind of what that Age of Ultron was trying to set up the whole time anyways, I really liked him. Thought he did a great job in it. He's just a character. He's just acting so much, just on so many crazy laughs and crazy expressions and stuff like that. You know, Andy Serkis, he's been hidden under CGI for so long you didn't think he was much of an actor, but wow. And then the interaction between him and Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman just has he's so good at like this exasperated phrase like, jeez. And when Andy Serkis is being a little bit too friendly with him and rubbing his shoulders, And then when and Martin Freeman's just kind of barely putting up with it, and then Andy Serkis is taking out the vibranium, and it looks like he's reaching inside of his pants to get it out. Well, I guess he is. He's kind of hidden it inside his pants, and just Martin Freeman's kind of got this look on his face. Like, Martin Freeman just does such a good job. They both do a very good job kind of playing off of each other. So that was good. The acting was really good in this movie. The general idea of this movie was good. I think it suffered in execution a bit, and I'll get to that later when I talk about the flaws of it. But the general idea, they were trying to be ambitious here, and they were trying to do something more than just a stupid superhero movie, and set up kind of some moral dilemmas where like the villain has a point of view and the hero has a point of view. They were trying to kind of build up more of a complex plot, and what was nice about this movie is it wasn't just the Black Panther, because we've had kind of too many superhero movies where it's just like the guy in the costume jumping around. But it was like the whole society, and the Black Panthers, you know, the guards, the royal guard, the leader of the royal guards, I guess the spear lady, his sister, his mother, his cousin, like kind of all of this. It was really kind of an ensemble cast and like an ensemble story, and that gave it a bit more depth, and that was interesting. What else did I like about it? I don't know. On to the negatives. Pacing. So when this movie was good, it was really, really good, but there were stretches of it that were boring. Particularly the first part, the first act. There was a lot of exposition, and I don't even mind exposition, because, you know, if it's kind of information that you need to develop the plot, whatever. But there was a lot of just kind of ritual stuff. They were talking about the rituals to become king and showing all these rituals, and it was just boring. And they did try and like spice it up with some action. Like when he's doing the ritual to become king, somebody challenges him, so he's got to fight him for the kingship. But I hate to say it, I found that action sequence as boring as the exposition. You know, like, I really love action movies, but it's interesting. I think it's not inherently interesting watching two people fight, even though kind of maybe the 12-year-old boy inside of us all thinks it is. But it's not really. You've got to kind of know what the stakes are, know what they're fighting for, kind of be interested about it. Just kind of, I'm being crowned king. Oh wait, all of a sudden I've got to fight somebody for some reason. That's not an interesting fight. And in retrospect, kind of after having seen the whole movie, you understand why that fight scene is in there. It's to kind of foreshadow the second challenging to the throne when Michael B. Jordan's character comes. But the first time you're watching the movie, and then it's like, I challenge you to the throne, we're going to have a fight, and you're like, I mean, I know who's going to win. Like, they're not going to kill the Black Panther off in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So now we've got to sit through this, and there's this whole boring fight scene. And then they crown him king, and then he's got this whole vision thing where they go through the ceremony, and he's got this vision where he talks to his dad. I thought, ugh. And like the plot just wasn't going anywhere, and it was kind of like there were no stakes in the movie at this point. I mean, I think it might have been a little bit better maybe if they had kind of set off the plot right at the beginning of the movie. So like, oh, okay, you've got this ticking time bomb which is in motion now. And then maybe that tension would have permeated all throughout the movie. But that first act, there really wasn't a plot. You were just kind of putting up with it because you knew like a plot would be coming later in the movie. But none of that was inherently interesting. And then when the plot does kind of kick off in Act 2, then the movie becomes more interesting. And the ending was good. Some of the CGI wasn't great. I know a lot of people have commented on this already, CGI wasn't great, but it was serviceable. Yeah, the ending climax, the big fight scene at the end, that was fine. Nothing wrong with that. Good fight scene. Yeah, it was a good kind of showdown between the hero and the villain. I've got some more time left, so let me talk about some more peripheral issues to this. This movie, you can't really watch movies in a vacuum, can you? Well, I mean, you could maybe, but like this movie, there's been a lot of buzz surrounding it. So people were really excited about the first black superhero, and then people were pointing out, actually, he's not the first black superhero. We've had Blade before. Sorry, in the movies, not in the comic books. But it felt like it was a big deal. This was certainly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This was the first time a black character was getting his own movie. The supporting cast was all black except for Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis. I think the director of this movie and both of the writers of this movie were black. So it did kind of feel like a big victory for representation. And then, unfortunately, just because there are idiots in this world, if you've been following the news, you know that there was some trolling around the release of this movie. People were kind of making up stories about being assaulted at this movie by black people, which, I don't know. I guess there are always idiots out there somewhere in the world. It shouldn't surprise me, but the fact that these stories got so much traction and people were retweeting it and forwarding it indicates that we as a society maybe have some work to do. So on the one hand, like, it's good that a movie like this is coming out. On the other hand, it's like, good news, bad news, I guess. But I might get into a little bit of trouble here, but as I was watching the movie, especially the first act, you know, Wakanda is not a real African country, but Wakanda seemed to kind of take on the stereotype everyone associates with African countries. And I'm watching this, and there are all these stereotypes of Africa and African tribalism in these opening scenes. And I'm thinking, is this okay? I mean, I think if you rewatch some of those jungle adventure movies from the 1930s, you might find a lot of these same kind of tribal stereotypes in those movies. It also seemed like it was trying to cram every stereotype of Africa into like this one kind of representative country of Wakanda. And I don't know. I guess, you know, like, part of me was thinking, this is a little bit, I don't want to say racist, but a little bit stereotypy. But on the other hand, it was a black cast who was performing it, black writers who wrote it, black director who was directing it. So this was their vision they wanted. So you can't really say it's racist. I mean, no, you can't. So it got me thinking a little bit about, like, what is a whole kind of thing about stereotypes. And it made me think, I was thinking this while I was watching the movie. Isn't everything in the movies a stereotype? Like, even, forget about like Foreign Lands or something like that. Even when you watch drama about American high school, like Beverly Hills 90210, or whatever the kids are watching these days. You're not watching a documentary. It's not true to life, and they're not even trying to be true to life. They're trying to pull out certain stereotypes that people have about high school life and, you know, what it's like to be in high school and what the kids are like in high school, and make that into some sort of an interesting drama that, you know, kind of has touchstones with real life, but is just kind of more like a stereotype of how we view real life. Like, isn't all of kind of film a stereotype? And so it made me think, maybe it's not so much the stereotype itself, but the intention behind it. So this is kind of black writers and black director and all black cast. And this is the image that they wanted to put forward, and they want to portray this as a positive image. And the fact that some of this might be a stereotype of Africa, It doesn't really matter. It's the intention behind it. I don't know, and maybe I don't know is a good note to end that on. I don't know. It was just kind of a thought that went through my head as I watched the movie. I did think it was in danger of kind of stereotyping Africa, but I don't know, and I'm just going to leave it at I don't know. Other things I wanted to talk about. Actually, maybe that's it. I think that was basically it. It was a good movie, not quite as good as everyone says it was, but 6 out of 10 stars. It's above average. It's worth seeing. And then I'll be back for the next Avengers movie for my next Marvel movie review. All right, take care.